purchased this magnificent land from the Russian Empire in 1867 at a cost of just $7.2 million or 2 cents per acre. Flying business class from London to Seattle, it would take 9 hours and was very comfortable. This is Seattle's Tacoma Airport, and we're just one flight away from Alaska. But the 6-hour layover was made worse by a 3-hour delay. The smiling face of an indigenous Inuit man on the tail fins did nothing to temper our frustration, but at last we did take off. And some 3.5 hours later, we arrived in Fairbanks at almost midnight. But leaving the airport, it was still broad daylight. After just 4 hours sleep, the shuttle bus took us to Fairbanks railway station. The Tanana Valley Model Railroad was a welcome distraction, as we'd had to check in an hour before the train left, despite there being only a total of 42 passengers. And at last here was the real thing. We're taking the first of 3 train journeys south, today as far as Denali Park. It's a 4-hour journey, and we're expecting spectacular scenery along the way.
All aboard!
As we left Fairbanks, we were able to sit in the Vista Dome of the Adventure Class section for 360-degree views. And as there's so few people on this train, we were only ever joined by 2 or 3 others. Unfortunately, the view from the front windows was marred by dead insects.
When traveling through the car, we ask that you maintain 3 points of contact.
You could travel in the double-decked Gold Star class, which has a private lower dining room. Wildfires can be a real problem in this area. This is the result of last year's. This is the Mears Memorial Bridge over the Tanana River. Built in 1923 at 702 feet, it's one of the longest single-span railroad bridges in the US. From now until we get to Denali Park, the railroad travels alongside the Nenana River. And on the other side are special carriages used for cruise ship passengers. As the river went into a canyon, the onboard announcer told us they were Class 5 rapids.
It's not because of the speed of the water, but because of how cold it is. You start getting wet, then you start getting cold.
And there were more river rafters to come.
And it looks like one of them has fallen overboard. They do have life jackets on, so they'll be alright.
What he failed to say was that the one in the water was face down. When we got to the hotel, they confirmed there had been a fatality. Later, we did see an upturned raft, but apparently river rafting fatalities are quite rare. We must be getting near to the end of today's journey because there's the Denali Park Highway. It's been a very pleasant 4 hours on the train as we arrive at Denali Park Station. There's a lot of people waiting to go on the next part of the trip towards Anchorage. Whilst they unloaded our bags, a coach took us to the Denali Bluffs Hotel, where we're staying for the next 2 nights. The guest rooms are nestled within 12 buildings tucked into the forested hillside. They also have a shuttle bus to take you into Denali National Park. Outside the reception is a sign saying that Denali, or Mount McKinley, is just 80 miles away. I do hope we see it. The rooms come with a balcony, cable TV, tea and coffee making facilities, a fridge, and complimentary Wi-Fi. So tonight we're going to try out their Mountaineer Grill Bar. Denali National Park is Alaska's top attraction, larger than the state of New Hampshire, with its highlight being the tallest mountain in the USA, Mount McKinley. Next morning at 8 a.m, this converted school bus packed with people arrived to take us on the Tundra Wilderness Tour. MJ, our guide, asked how I was. Well, I was okay till I saw how many people were on your bus, I said. Oh, you can sit at the front, she said, as no one was using the reserved disabled seats. Bus services can only drive as far as mile 43 because of a major landslip in 2021. MJ encouraged us to shout out if we spotted any wildlife.
This is a good spot to look for caribou.
And sure enough, there was one keeping cool in the snow. So the bus stopped immediately and MJ used her live video camera so we could all see it on our TV screens. Apart from the wildlife, it's the highest peak in North America, Mount McKinley, that everyone wants to see. Notoriously covered in cloud, MJ said she hadn't seen the mountain for weeks. Then suddenly, it was our lucky day, for there she was.
The rounded peak, that's the highest point in North America.
Every year, 1,000 people try to reach the summit, but only half succeed. Because of the near Arctic conditions, it's tougher to climb than Everest. Already this year, 5 have died trying. Down at the ranger station, beyond which no private cars can go, the ranger came on to count us.
All right, well, welcome everyone. My name is Ranger Taylor. Welcome to Denali National Park and Preserve. You guys are about to enter mostly untouched wilderness of 6 million acres, wilderness of 7. I hope you all see what you've come to Denali to see, but I also hope you're inspired to think about all the animals that have ever crossed the same path that you're crossing today, and all the people that have once called this place home. And I hope you're inspired to just take a moment to think about all the stories that this land holds.
MJ said that the next closest road is in Siberia, 3,000 miles away, the distance between New York and Los Angeles. 100 years ago, only a few people set foot in Denali in search of game or minerals. Today, over 500,000 visit the park every year. And suddenly a moose appeared in the road. Moose can be extremely dangerous, charging or kicking. The only escape is to run and hide. There's some other wildlife about too.
And it's waiting for its parents to come back and bring it some food. This is a baby raven.
But in 1917, the Dall sheep were being hunted almost to extinction. And so the national park was created to protect the land and the animals within. This is a vast wilderness, only accessible by one road. In fact, you might say that it's America as it used to be. In the late afternoon, this was a short walk from our hotel. Downtown Denali is affectionately known as Glitter Gulch. It's a strip of shops, restaurants and lodges located on the highway just outside Denali National Park. morning at the Denali Park depot, we were going back on the Denali Star Railroad to travel to Talkeetna. I had a look round while we waited and admired the local wildlife. There's more people on this second leg of the journey than on the first. Once again we sat upstairs in the Vista Dome. Downstairs in adventure class, the reclining seats make it very comfortable, but you get better views upstairs. Now we've pulled into a siding so we can change crew with another train. That would make us nearly an hour late, but hey, this is Alaska, so no one really cares. Only 20% of Alaska is accessible by road, and we're about to pass the last true flag-stop train in the US. Passengers simply wave a white flag or stand on the tracks to request a pickup. It operates 4 times a week in the summer and once a week in the winter. Now for our overnight stop, we're pulling into Talkeetna. All these people are waiting to go on to Anchorage. Whilst the bags were coming off, I went to look at the locomotives. And today is July the 4th, and a very special Independence Day this year. This is tonight's accommodation. These rustic but very comfortable log cabins have been built by the owners with trees from their own land. Just imagine the work involved in that. There's every modern convenience inside, and the bedroom is upstairs. Talkeetna's main street was just around the corner. This charming turn of the 20th century gold mining town still retains a frontier feel. The sort of place you would most expect to find in Alaska. Nagley's, the only grocery store in town, has an attractive clapboard storefront, and old log cabins and heritage buildings line the street. The Fairview Inn, built in 1923, is the home of Talkeetna's first bathtub. But it's Saturday night, the 4th of July, and the whole town's turned out to celebrate. Fantastic. After one too many drinks, it was still daylight as we tried to find our way home. We're back on the train again today, but not until 5 p.m, so we began with a hearty breakfast. The museum is the starting point for the historic walking tour. It's housed in the original schoolhouse dating from 1915. Talkeetna is the nearest town to Denali and the staging area for many climbing expeditions. The museum has a model of the mountain and a film describing the climb.
Climb will take 2 to 3 weeks, and only half who attempt it will reach the summit. You fly from the Talkeetna Airport to Katmai Base Camp at 7,200 feet. When you land on the glacier, you're in a different world. It's a wilderness of ice and rock.
After this, we followed the map round the town. Harry Robb's cabin is a typical railroad cabin built in 1924. After he passed in 1976, the Historical Society members said it was like walking into a time capsule. Even today, some Alaskans who live in the bush without water or electricity come into the village for supplies and messages. There's the Flagstop train going out from Talkeetna the 60 miles to Hurricane Gulch, operating like a wilderness taxi. There are lots of tourists about now. Because of the weather, the season is only between mid-May and mid-September. And so, as this sign shows, by order of Mayor Wendell, all tourists must detour. And who is Mayor Wendell? He's got his own Facebook page and was voted in by the locals last September, putting an end to a 3-decade streak of cat mayors. He lives here at the pizzeria, but unfortunately we didn't meet him as he was out for a walk. Before our train to Anchorage, we went to the riverfront park for a last view of Mount Denali. Oh dear, she's completely covered in cloud. We checked in for our last railroad journey. It will take some 3 hours to get to Anchorage. The best scenery from the train had been on the previous 2 journeys, so we relaxed quietly in our reclined seats. We were shunted into a siding at one point to let a freight train pass. It had 3 engines and was so long it took 4 minutes to go by. And so we arrived in Anchorage and waited to pick up our bags. Then the taxi took us to our accommodation for the next 3 nights, the Copper Whale Inn. Unfortunately, we were given a poky little room at the front, next to the main road and the traffic lights. There was no room to unpack, and we couldn't open the window blinds because of people seeing in. It was not good, but fortunately the beds were quite comfortable. It's 8 o'clock in the morning and we've arrived at Rust's Flying Services, who are taking us to Katmai National Park. It's a 2.5-hour flight on quite a small plane. It's a de Havilland DHC float plane, which can also be fitted with wheels or skis. Looking out as we took off, that could well be a yacht marina. But no, they're all aeroplanes. In Alaska, it's very common to get your pilot license before your driving license. With Anchorage below, and looking back, I was sure that was Mount Denali. We were very glad to see that the pilot had got a sat-nav. It wasn't long before we spotted our first glacier. The further we went, the more spectacular the scenery became. There's a double glacier, and towering at 11,000 feet, Mount Redoubt, which erupted in 2009 with ash falling in Anchorage and Homer. During the last year, Mount Iliamna has shown considerable seismic activity, and it's steaming ominously. This is a land of active volcanoes. There's a bit of fog around, which could be a problem if it gets bad, because float plane pilots rely on visual navigation, and landing on water requires judging exact heights above a reflective surface. We soon saw that we were not the only ones to have flown in today. Our pilot then put his waders on to turn the plane around before we could get off. It was quite a task walking along the stony, log-strewn beach, stepping over plain tethering lines as we went. Before entering the park, it's mandatory to attend bear school. One of the rangers introduces a very informative film.
Welcome to Brooks Camp in Katmai National Park and Preserve. Katmai National Park protects one of the highest densities of bears in the world. The bears can be anywhere. On the trail, along the beach, in the river, and at camp. And we would like to help you prepare for your time here.
And remember, no cheering when a bear catches a fish.
During your adventures here at Brooks Camp, you can help bears in 3 ways.
Number 1, always manage your food and possessions properly.
Number 2, if you see a bear, remain calm. Do not run.
And number 3, always give bears space and avoid impacting their behavior and their habitat.
By being good stewards of Brooks Camp, you help protect the amazing bears and other wild animals that live here. Thank you for joining the National Park Service in preserving this special place.
Outside there's a reminder, if you needed one. You could stay here if you're successful in the annual lottery. All the rooms have 2 sets of bunk beds, and it's currently £1,000 per night. Meals are extra. We set off on the boardwalk trail across the Brooks River, and the first thing that struck me was how big they are. How amazing. The falls where the bears catch the salmon was still a mile away, but I thought if we don't see any more bears at all, it's been worth the trip. Walking through the forest, there were some signs along the way. And then we got to a very welcome facility, but no flush. After 20 minutes, we arrived at the Riffles platform, having put our name down to be called to the Falls platform when space became available. The park is one of the premier brown bear viewing areas in the world. About 2,200 brown bears are estimated to inhabit the park. In fact, on the Alaskan Peninsula, there are more bears than people. On the top of the falls, we could see 2 bears anxiously looking for salmon. This physical sparring indicates a frustration in looking for the best spot to catch the fish. No one seems to be having any luck. The truth is that the salmon run is late this year. Meanwhile, this little cub has lost his mum. We wanted to help, but decided it wasn't wise. Then it was our turn for half an hour on the main viewing platform next to the falls. But unfortunately, very few salmon. Later, maybe even next week, there could be 20 or 30 bears and hundreds of salmon leaping up the falls. We did see a couple of salmon, like this one. So that was something. We set off on the mile walk back, encountering a different sort of animal. Fortunately, we bought these head nets to protect us against swarms of mosquitoes, which are often called the Alaska state bird. They're pretty much everywhere, and there was a rather good warning sign outside the Denali Bluffs Hotel. Back on the boardwalk, we looked down to see an unbelievable amount of salmon, but no bears. Then suddenly everything changed. An adult bear can eat up to 90 pounds of salmon a day. This mother has 2 very young cubs.
It's going to be a problem. She's going to be coming back this way.
She's gone fishing, and the babies are left struggling with the current. To thrive and reproduce, an adult bear needs to increase its spring weight by 1/3 or more before entering its winter den. They remain in a deep sleep then for half the year. I think that fisherman's a bit close, because bears can run at 35 miles an hour. A bear sighting is a bit like a Chinese takeaway. Hugely satisfying at the time, but it's not long before you're itching for another. Eventually we had to drag ourselves away from this lovely place. But it wasn't quite over, because a ranger has spotted a bear near the lodges, and so there's a flurry of ranger activity to keep the public away.
720 here at the Visitor Center, and Central Health Technical. I was over there.
And so we were helped into the safety of our plane. On the way back, we'd be refueling at Port Alsworth. It's going to be a new experience because we'll all have to get out again. Alaska, the largest state in the US, is over 6 times the size of the UK, but with a population less than Liverpool. So we've now landed at Port Alsworth. Leaving the aircraft, it was a case of walking the plank, 2 at a time. What a beautiful place. I wouldn't mind staying here. Getting back on board was a little bit tricky. I was certain I was going in the water. But we all managed it and took off again, bound for Anchorage. What an absolutely fabulous day it's been, seeing the bears of Katmai National Park. After the excitement of Katmai, next day exploring downtown Anchorage was to be quieter. Anchorage is Alaska's largest city, with over 280,000 residents. Nestled between the Kujach Mountains and the Cook Inlet, it serves as the ultimate gateway to Alaska's wilderness. Resolution Park, named after James Cook's flagship, wasn't far away from our hotel. He set out in 1776 and surveyed the northwest coast of America and Alaska. The Alaskan flag seen on the left here is regarded as the most beautiful of all US state flags. It features the star constellation known as the Great Bear. Next morning, there was a problem with Avis in collecting our rent-a-car, resulting in a 2-hour delay. We were driving south, and so it was quite late when we arrived in Homer. The journey itself was long, and unfortunately we took a 16-mile detour to see an old mining town called Hope. It was once a thriving gold rush town. Now it's a place for hiking and fishing. This man's teaching the girls gold panning, but I don't think they'll get rich quick here. It was another 16 miles back to the main road and still 150 miles to Homer. Eventually we did reach the town, but stopped first to look at Homer Spit, a long narrow finger of land jutting 4.5 miles into Kachemak Bay. We drove past the main town of Homer and down onto the Spit, where our hotel for the next 2 nights is right at the very end. It's appropriately called Land's End. It's described as a popular beachfront hotel offering stunning views of Kachemak Bay. So we couldn't wait to see our room. My goodness, it was absolutely fabulous. And the views were stunning. Back in the room, we noticed some Venetian doors. Welcome to the bathroom. It now seems to be the trend to share your bathing with your nearest and dearest. Tonight we'll have a lovely sleep, lured by the sounds of the sea. Next morning it was very tempting just to stay in the hotel bedroom and look at the kittiwakes on the beach and the fishing boats coming in and out to sea. But we were anxious to explore the town and the Spit, which might be the remnant of an ancient glacial moraine. It's been saved from the ravages of the sea by reclamation and rock walls. It's the world's longest road into the ocean waters, the town where the US highway ends. Nearby is a poignant message. This bell tolls for all souls set free upon the sea. And this is very much a seafaring community. The MV Tustumuna is returning to Homer from Kodiak. The crossing takes 9.5 hours and sails 2 or 3 times a week. She takes 174 passengers and 34 vehicles. The harbour is full of fishing boats and some newborn chicks. fishing boat is unloading halibut. For as the town sign says, Homer is the halibut fishing capital of the world. At this time of year, the waters around Katmai Bay are teeming with the fish. The fish are unloaded from the net, checked over, then weighed ready for packing. To keep them fresh, ice is put inside the fish, which are then sorted by size into boxes. The smaller fish are in the far box, and this one goes into a box for larger fish. Then the forklift truck takes the full boxes away to a refrigerated vehicle. It's hard work. They've already been at this for 4 hours. And that surely is the largest fish so far. That's enough to feed the whole of Alaska here. Well, that was very interesting. Later I tried some halibut and found it had quite a meaty texture. It's a popular choice for people who don't normally like strong seafood. High on a pole were 2 Alaskan bald eagles. Along the Spitz boardwalks there are some very interesting shops. In one of these there was a whole display devoted to mosquito repellents. Very useful at this time of the year in this part of the world. The old lighthouse tower, an historic landmark built in 1897, houses a Salty Dog saloon. The bar is known for the thousands of dollar bills signed by visitors and tacked to the walls. The tradition started a few decades ago when a man walked in and tacked a dollar bill on the wall of the log cabin. So when his friend came in later, the buck was to buy him a drink. Later we drove to Homer's old town. Yes, it's these few buildings. And the visitor centre. We've just been in this creperie for lunch, and when I placed the order, she asked me what my name was. Peter, I said. Peter? P-E-T-E-R. Oh, Peter! Back at the hotel, there's lots of local activity. Look at the number of fishing rods attached to this boat. Yes, it's world-class fishing in this area. Even this lad on the beach has caught one. It's now 11:30 in the evening and the sun's only just set. Next day there was lots more activity. A stroll along the beach. Plenty of fishing, of course. And this lady's gone for a swim, though the water looks a bit chilly. Today we're going to Seward, so as it's the only road, we drove back to Cooper Landing and then turned south towards Seward. And so it was time to leave the spit and drive back up towards the main road. After a while we stopped by the Kenai River. He looks a bit uncomfortable. Further along, those rapids look a bit fierce for a small kayak. Oh my goodness, and she's got a dog with her, who's now swimming for the bank. Fortunately, help was at hand, and the dog was sitting on the bank laughing. Meanwhile, these cool dudes are drinking coffee and fishing, but then their boat does look a bit more stable than a kayak. It's such a beautiful day that we soon stopped again. Our next stop was just outside Seward. Behind me is Exit Glacier, which pours down from the Harding ice field. It's one of the most accessible glaciers in Alaska, but unfortunately, like many glaciers, it's receding up to 150 feet a year. In 1815, the glacier came right down to this fence. It seems that in Alaska, if you don't have an aeroplane or a boat, then you have a motorhome, many of which are the size of small lorries. Seward is a historical, picturesque town on Alaska's Kenai Peninsula, 125 miles south of Anchorage. We're staying at the Hotel Edgewater, which was a real disappointment after the wonderful Land's End Resort in Homer. For this was the view from our small window. So we cheered ourselves up with a visit to the Salmon Bake restaurant just out of the town. It advertises cheap beer and lousy food, neither of which are true. In fact, we had a lovely meal in a great atmosphere. On the way back to the hotel, we spotted a cruise ship resplendent against the mountains. She's cruising the Alaskan coastline bound for Vancouver. Next morning we went to nearby Hoban Park, where two statues symbolize the pioneers of a bygone era. Between 1910 and 1925, dog teams hauled millions of dollars of gold into Seward. The statues symbolize the Alaskan spirit, that somewhere down the trail, life will be better. This is a tsunami area, and there are lots of warning signs around like this one, which reads, if the ground shakes for more than 20 seconds and it's difficult to stand, and or the tsunami siren is heard, anyone within the tsunami hazard zone should immediately move to higher ground. This is Seward's main street. The town is very quiet for a Saturday morning, though there is a small market. But then that's the Alaskan way. Today we're going on the Kenai Fjords Wildlife Cruise. So we joined the others to get on board the catamaran. And we are hoping to see some wildlife. There's a commentary throughout the voyage. The weather's not great, but maybe that doesn't matter. As we sailed out, obviously these people thought it would be a while before we saw any wildlife. It's quite an extensive cruise, passing rock formations, islands and coves, so it will take about 4 hours. It was all lovely, but suddenly there was great excitement. Yes, a pod of humpback whales. This is one of the few places in the world where the whales practice bubble net feeding. It's a complex cooperative hunting strategy where whales dive deep below schools of fish and exhale air, creating a rising net of bubbles. This traps the prey in tight clusters near the surface, allowing the whales to lunge upwards with open mouths to gulp thousands of pounds of food. The frenetic bird activity is a good indication that the upward lunge is about to take place. I've spotted some frenetic activity again. My goodness, it's quite a sight, isn't it? Our whale-watching trips in the past have been disappointing. Last time we only saw a dolphin, but this has been in another league. Truly outstanding. It was a case of follow that. What a fabulous trip. Unfortunately, it's our last day, and we're driving back to Anchorage for the flight home. The Alaskan scenery isn't quite as appealing in this weather. Despite the bad weather, it took us just 2.5 hours. After 2 weeks in Alaska, we finally found a moose. Unfortunately, it's at Anchorage Airport on the way home. Here's our plane to take us to Seattle. When we took off, you could see little, but in Seattle there was a great view of Mount Rainier. And that will be our overnight flight back to London. What a wonderful 2 weeks in the massive, unspoiled wilderness with a sense of true frontier adventure that is Alaska.
North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on.